Before starting the session, I just want to give a brief about him. So Abhishek sir has, he's a very professional person, and he has served in a lot of organizations like the Taj Group of Hotels, KFC, Aditya Birla Group, in different functions, in different positions. And yes, in the year 2004, 2009, when KFC was, just coming to India. So has, put tremendous effort to, for the development and the growth of KFC in India as well as in Western Africa also. And he has been working as an integral part of Indian first premium brand, multinational brand, that's men's lifestyle, that was called Collective. So that was way back, and after that, he started his entrepreneurial journey in the year 2015 with a multi-cuisine food and beverage outlet called Banta Dhaba, which I know many people in Siliguri know. So he has three different outlets in Siliguri, Kurseong, Darjeeling, and along with his planning to open in Gangtok and Darjeeling another one. So he's already established the multi cuisine food restaurants now. And he's looking forward for food and bakery, even what to say, the food and bakery education services also. So before sir speaks, I would like to uh, say our director sir, to speak few words about Abhishek sir. It will be great pleasure. So sir, hello.
Yes.
Yes sir, so
Uh,
it's to you sir, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Abhishek. So,
Good afternoon to you, sir.
good afternoon. See, it's for the students that I have known Mr. Abhishek Datta for the last 25 years, since 1995. Uh, so, once upon a time, we used to be in the same class. So, um, and you see, let me brief you all students that Mr. Datta, I had seen him even as a student. Not that he was among among the toppers, first, second, third. No, neither was he among the last few. But what stood him out from the others was that he has always had a very challenging mind. I still remember whatever teachers used to say, he would not accept anything at face value. Always challenging, like, okay, you are saying this, but what if I do it this way? Like, prove me wrong. Even if he's proved wrong, but this challenge was always there. It shows two things. One, that he has an inquiring mind, and two, he has a fire in the belly. In yesterday's session, we heard about that Kira in the Dimag. I believe he had it even when he was a student. Unlike the Somrita Guha, Miss Somrita Guha, from whom we had heard that she had started her business as an entrepreneur even while she had been a student and did not work for anybody else. What happened, why we wanted to present Mr. Datta to you all today is because um, he did work for, sorry, Sandipan?
No, no, I didn't say anything, sir.
Okay. Um, so he actually did work for large brands. He worked for other companies. But then that bug must have not gone out of his head, which is why today we find him as a very successful entrepreneur. So he has not only gone into a project, a startup, he has already been able to get that profit out of it and expand. So I would like Mr. Datta to explain that that having that bug, which we always talk about, that fire in the belly, how it took him to become an entrepreneur after gaining experience in some companies, and then how did he make sure that in 5 years' time, from one, he has now three outlets, and he's planning to open more. So that is an astounding journey. We would like that, Mr. Datta, from your talk, our students get some tips, some beneficial points on what to look at, what exactly to do, and looking at profit, looking at the social angle. I know how you have been working during that this coronavirus lockdown, how you have been helping people. I am aware of it. Our students are not. So, how exactly have you turned your first venture into a profitable chain? What all things you had to take care of? So I'd like you to enlighten our students and all of us who are here. So please go ahead. We will have a wonderful session with you. Over to Mr. Datta.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for introducing me. First of all, namaste to all of you. And this seems to be the new social trend when you largely shifted from good morning to namaskar. And that's a good thing, because that possibly takes you back to your own cultural roots. And also it is something which is safe in terms of vis-a-vis the current situation which we all are experiencing. But before I start, I just wanted to know a few things about this group in general. The number of students who are attending would be how many? Hello?
Abrar, please respond.
Around 40 today.
Around 40. And I'm assuming that the average age group would be around what, 2021?
Yeah, 19 to 2021.
So that's averages to 20 possibly. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Because that gives me the confidence I'm speaking to a matured audience now. Okay. Right, great. At the very onset, I would want to thank Mr. Angshuman Chatterjee, my revered ex-teacher. And as sir has rightly pointed out, there was a time when we were in the same class, although in opposite directions. So I would be on the receiving end, and sir would be on the other end giving instructions. But nonetheless, it was a fantastic way of starting way back in 1995, as rightly pointed out. And I would also want to express my gratitude to Mr. Arindam Dey, your MD, and all of you for giving me this opportunity to share my experience as an entrepreneur. So as possibly as what sir rightly has already told you people, that presently I'm owning and operating 3 restaurants across Siliguri, Darjeeling, and Kershing area by the name of Banta Dhaba. And as sir pointed out also, that this journey did start exactly 5 years before. Prior to that, I did have my engagement with India's one of the finest brands like the Taj Hotels, KFC, and a multinational brand, and Aditya Birla Group. So talking about how to start an entrepreneur, how to start a business in hospitality. Now, I would not consider myself to be a subject expert, but I can share a few things from my own personal experience. I can tell you the path which I took. Now that may differ from people to people, from from an expert to an expert. But I can only tell you a few things of how I did start. So before I get into that, I would want to tell you that the preparation for setting up a business did start almost 15 to 17 years back, when I did start my career in Bombay, the Taj Hotels. So that was the first place which gave me an exposure, a tremendous exposure in terms of how the business runs, how hotel like Taj functions with its own SOPs, with its own training programs, with its own various F&B outlets. In those days, in around 2000, which is 20 years back, probably the time when you all were born. I'm assuming that since 20 is the average age group, is the average age of this group. I'm assuming that that's the time when most of you were probably born, or you're probably toddlers. So that was a time when the nation was going through a tremendous change in terms of the economic boost, which did start probably around 1992, 1993, post so Narasimha Rao became the PM of the nation. So India was going through a tremendous journey of growth, and hospitality was one sector that was picking up really, really fast. 2000 was the year, possibly the Taj hotels had something around, I think, 25, 27 hotels. And by the time I left them in 2004, it was up by another 7 or 8 hotels across the nation. But the main training, per se, how to start a business in hospitality did actually take its shape from KFC. Now, KFC, as all of you know, it's basically a multinational and American quick service restaurant brand. Okay, and KFC in the year 2004 was in its relaunch phase. That was the time when KFC was actually expanding. KFC was actually, opening up outlets in every nook and corner of the country. And 2004 was the time when probably the first outlet came up in Eastern India at Kolkata in a shopping mall called City Center 1, which is there in Salt Lake. Now, if people have traveled to that location, then they probably would know that outlet. So, nonetheless, to give you a small background about KFC, KFC happens to be one of the 5 brands that's operated by a company called Yum, Y-U-M, Yum. It's a company which is based from Dallas in America, and the time when I had joined in 2004, KFC was probably almost a 5,000 plus outlet scenario. Okay, currently probably the count has possibly gone up to 7 or 8,000 in the last 15 years. Now, what it takes to start hospitality business, if you need to know that, I will probably say it is, as Angshuman sir pointed out rightly, that starts with Akira. At the very first, at the very first note, that there has to be something constantly keeping you pushing. That if I can work in an organization, and if this is what my productivity is, what happens if I do it for myself, for my own? What kind of growth can I see? What kind of challenges can I overcome if the same thing which I'm doing for one organization, I can do it for myself? Now, if that thought strikes in your mind at any point of time, that is the first indication that you are preparing yourself to be an entrepreneur. Okay. Usually, what happens with entrepreneurs are that basically they're basically very free-spirited people. So usually they would not like to follow conventions. Usually they will not like to go with the flow. That's one thing which is the first attributive to rather consider whether you are a potential entrepreneur or not. Right. So I can tell you that when I was working with KFC, I mean, they had fantastic standards, they had fantastic SOPs. Okay, the training was great because I was directly trained by the young people who would come from America at that point of time, and the training was phenomenal in terms of product, in terms of quality, in terms of standards, in terms of training, in terms of marketing. So the various training were given, and it's very structured. It's a very structured way, because you got to understand one thing, that the kind of chicken which you possibly eat in Shiliguri at any of these KFC outlets, and the same modern crispy chicken which you will probably taste in some part of Africa, will be almost identical. Barring few anomalies here and there, it will be almost identical. So that's a phenomenal task when you start standardizing things to that extent, because you're going to run probably Yum runs something around, I think, 30,000 plus restaurants worldwide now. KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, Long John Silver's, all these brands added up. It's almost 30,000 at this point of time. So it is a phenomenal job for a company like Yum to integrate the various SOPs and make it one brand. Make it one brand. Now, is anybody here who has done some part-time job or who has done some kind of training in any of these USA brands? Anyone who has worked with a Domino's Pizza or a Pizza Hut or a McDonald's or a KFC? Is anybody here from that league? Hello?
No, actually, Abhishek, they are all students of BBA, Bachelor in Business Administration.
Okay.
So, no, so their main
Great.
areas are HR and finance and marketing. These are the main areas they work in. So, I believe none of them has really,
None of them has done
worked
some kind
in.
of part-time job or something like that?
They did go for training. They have a, work and learn phase also in their curriculum. They did go for that. They did go for part time. They have a cut training as well as a work and learn, as I said, phase in the curriculum, but not necessarily in hospitality.
Okay, great. So now, if anybody ever gets a chance to do a part-time job in one of these organizations, okay, be it a Pizza Hut, be it a Domino's Pizza, be it a KFC, please do take the opportunity. Okay, because that will be the if anybody here has an ambition to start his own business in hospitality, I will strongly suggest that getting an exposure in terms of doing a part-time job while you're doing your regular stuff in college, you would possibly come to know what kind of brainstorming happens in terms of standardization. Because how is it possible that you are getting the same pizza again and again and again and again from the Domino's? How is it possible that you get the same taste for a Zinger burger, regardless of whether you eat the same burger in Delhi, in Bombay, in Kolkata, in Nagpur, in Nasik, or in Hyderabad? So these things happens when you have a very strong training process and a very strong standardization. So nonetheless, now that was that kind of a training was the first support which I got, was the first was the first kind of exposure which I got, and which gave me which sort of encouraged me to give me the thought that why not do my own business? Why not do something where I will be able to standardize my, let's say, dal makhani or my butter chicken across the various outlets that I probably will open in days to come. So almost the 5 years of engagement with KFC, starting as a restaurant general manager in Kolkata city center and ending up as the head operations country for West African nations of Ghana, was gave me a tremendous insight in terms of the restaurant business. Okay, and it is courtesy that exposure, it is courtesy that training, it is courtesy the experience which I gained in opening almost around 18 outlets of KFC across Kolkata and Delhi and the NCR region, because I was at one point of time had operations for KFC for the main franchisee called Divyani. Okay, this was the year 2009, and at that point of time we had already opened something around 19 outlets of KFC across Delhi, across Noida, across Gurgaon, across Kolkata, across even Lucknow. Okay, so these multiple locations, Greater Noida. Okay. Now, when somebody talks about starting a business in hospitality, a few factors, a few things needs to be kept in mind. The very first thing you got to keep in mind is that which location are you going to open it up? Location plays a very key role, and the kind of clientele that you are expecting from the location, that plays a very key role in terms of the first stepping stone in starting a hospitality business. Now, let me tell you about what happens with location. One of the KFC outlets which were opened up in 2006 at Park Street, this was just 2 shops inside from the main high street. And at that point of time, there was an existing McDonald's which was already there, which today probably is some other outlet, probably Barbecue Nation or something. But there's a McDonald's which was there in the year 2006, and KFC was just opposite that, with only 2 shops ahead of it. And just because of 2 shops, on an average, KFC would lose something around 200 or 200 plus footfall, which would go to a McDonald's. So that is the first thing which one has to consider when opening up a food and beverage outlet. So which location are we choosing? Because depending on the location, your clientele will be defined. My first Santa Banta Dhaba outlet opened up in this place called Jeevandat building, if you people are aware, since most of you are probably from Siliguri. This opened up in Jeevandat building, which is exactly close to Salugad. Now, the reason why this was opened up in that location, let me give you a small example, a small insight to that. 2015 was the year when I came to Siliguri from Kolkata, and that was the time I had, before I opened the outlet, I did my homework for almost 3-4 months, knowing this location, knowing this area. So I had seen that the major movement of the tourists happens from either from Bagdogra or from New Jalpaiguri station, and there are primarily 3 or 4 locations where tourists go. One is your Sikkim side, which is Gangtok, okay. Other would be Bhutan, other is Duos, and the 4th one is Darjeeling and Kaohsiung. So these 4 major tourist locations are primarily catered by the Bagdogra airport or by the New Jalpaiguri railway station. Of course, you get people coming by buses to junction, but that's probably not the main catchment. Now, if you boys and girls are familiar with this place, Salugada, you would know that there was this sweet and snack shop called Laddu Gopal. Has anybody heard about that outlet?
Yes, sir.
Right, good. I'm happy to know that.
Laddu Gopal.
So Laddu Gopal at that point of time was one F&B outlet which was on this place. But Laddu Gopal primarily caters to your pure vegetarian crowd. So I saw a huge lacune in terms of people who have a propensity towards eating non-vegetarian food and people who are more into eating a proper meal. Because a sweet and snack shop does not serve you a proper meal. Basically, you catch up with some dosa or some probably dhokla or some samosa and that stuff, which might not be filling. Now, people who, if you do a backward calculation, you would understand that most of these people who are arriving at Bagdogra airport or New Jalpaiguri station, they did start their journey way back. Probably somebody who's coming to Gangtok from, let's say, a Bombay or let's say a Chennai. That person did start his journey probably at morning 4 o'clock or morning 5 o'clock. So he took some flight from Bombay. He probably took connecting flight to Kolkata, from Kolkata to Bagdogra. So by the time he lands up at Bagdogra by say 11:30 or 12 or whatever time, so he's already quite famished, he and his family, and he or she would possibly want to have a square meal. So I saw an opportunity there, because anybody who is going to go to a Sikkim or to a Bhutan or to a Duos has to invariably pass through Salugada. He has to pass through that location, through this highway. And that was the first thing which I took in consideration while selecting this site, that why not open up a proper dhaba with whatever learnings I have from the Taj Hotels or from KFC. Why not bring those best learnings and open a food and beverage outlet with some differences? Because the market those days either had some very rudimentary, very basic food and beverage outlets on the road, which possibly had not given much attention to hygiene, to quality, to standardization, and overall to hospitality. If the most of the F&B outlets which you probably will see on the road, they might be serving good food. I'm not debating on that, but there are many elements of a good hospitality joint which are missing. So that's where the whole thought process started, that why not bring in the best practices from a KFC, from a Taj, and integrate them with dhabas. Now, why Santa Banta? Why? Now, the second thing was what kind of branding, what kind of name do I want to keep for the business? And I had probably done a brainstorming for almost a couple of months on that. So various names popped up, various names came to discussions with my friends, with my family, with my ex-bosses, my ex-colleagues, with my ex-employees. And eventually, this name Santa Banta, you'll be happy to know, came from my wife. And the reason this name came up because the whole understanding is that Santa Banta are two certain characters who in those days were quite well known in the nation because of the kind of jokes that would do around. You probably you are less of those jokes nowadays, because possibly some kind of litigation happened later on by the Sikh community. They took an offense for this kind of jokes. But for a long time in the country, Santa Banta jokes were absolutely a big hit. It was a big hit. So the name played an important role because it immediately connects you. It immediately gives you a sense of familiarity. So the moment somebody comes to Bagdogra and the driver says that, why don't you have a meal at Banta Dhaba? So it immediately strikes a kind of familiarity. So that's why we finally chose that name. And by the grace of God, that did strike a very familiar chord with my catchment, right? Secondary, we had a big, we have a big army base, army camp, which is very next to my restaurant at Siliguri, the Sevak military station, which probably, to my understanding, which possibly houses something around 40,000 odd or 50,000 kind of defense personnel. And a majority portion of this defense personnel are actually North Indians. Okay, so for them again, this name was an immediate hit. Unfortunately today we are running in this kind of situation because of this coronavirus thing. But had I been, had this been the normal situation, the normal condition, I would possibly be running around in one of my outlets and making money. This was the prime time for my business. But nonetheless, thankfully, this gives me an opportunity to know no other people, no other ventures, right? So quite a few things, quite a few factors played, were quite conducive for me when I did consider opening up my first F&B outlet in Chalugura location. And after location, definitely comes the food, the menu mix, which is called menu mix in our industries. What kind of menu are you going to look into? Because we had it been the mainstream Siliguri, had it been a Sevak Road or a Hillcard Road, those kind of locations, it would have been different because there you largely cater to the local population. But since I am on a highway and since my major clientele are tourists who come from various parts of the nation, you have people coming from Kerala, from Punjab, from Delhi, from Bombay, from Kolkata, any location. You have people from all over India, and also you have international tourists who passes by this road. So menu mix became a very important aspect of the business. So we eventually, made a very comprehensive menu which had a bit of North Indian, a bit of South Indian, a bit of Chinese, tandoor, and continental. Because we realized that if you only do it only North Indian, possibly we will miss on a big population, a big chunk of this South Indian crowd who also come, right? If you do it only South Indian, then we miss on larger number of these Punjabis or the Maharashtrians or possibly, people coming from Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, these locations who might not be, raving over a South Indian thali. And definitely, being a part of Bengal, we also needed a touch of Bengali dishes because we get a lot of people who ask that what is the local specialty. But that's why we recommend them why don't you try a hilsa fish. So when you try the Bengali prawn malai curry, there are people who also wants to, and momo being one of the star products of this location, so definitely that's also part of the menu. So we did a lot of research on the menu, and eventually we arrived to some 300 plus odd dishes. The first menu was conceptualized. But once you have done your menu, the third thing comes with the people with whom you're going to work. So you need to have to, 2015 was the year when Siliguri still didn't have many options in terms of F&B outlet. There were possibly a Sartaj somewhere in the town. And what else? I mean, there were not many of this, and obviously Punjabi Kadai was there. right? So barring of Punjabi Kadai or Asar Taj, we did not have much of this North Indian kind of F&B outlet. So for the very first outlet, I had to get a chef, a very trained chef from Kolkata, from Delhi. But what I had in the back of my mind was, again, courtesy, the kind of training which I had from KFC, was to create a backup immediately. Because one of the major problems or one of the major challenges you face in the Siliguri is that anybody who comes from a big city, from probably a Delhi or a Bombay, after a period of time loses interest. Because somebody who is possibly used to the kind of speed, the kind of footfall, the kind of occupancy in this big cities, or might over a period of time lose his or her interest while working in a small town, still a small town compared to what a large metropolitan city would be. So my immediate action plan was to create local backups, and that's where I was very thankfully I was very much well aided, very much well supported by my wife, and she's very much an integral part of my business. So immediately we hired a lot of local women from nearby location of Chandrapura. We hired something around probably 15-20 women who were staying close by, and we trained them. We trained them for almost a year and a half, and that paid. After training them for almost a year and a half, these women could cook food as good as what possibly the best chefs will cook in any of these big cities. So thankfully, that was one thing which worked really well for me, for my business, right? Then came the marketing initiatives. Just a moment. Yeah, am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir. Audible.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Great. So after selecting the location, after selecting the menu, after hiring your workforce, then came the marketing drive. Because the whole idea was to let this grow organically. I could have done digital marketing. I could have done, I could have met this various travel agents from the day one, but I somehow strategically said not to do it. But somehow, kept the marketing drive secondary, not primary. The whole reason was to gain operational excellence. The whole reason was to gain expertise in operations first. Because any business, if it does not have sound operational standards, procedures, no matter how much marketing you do, it is bound to collapse beyond a point of time. So the initial thrust, the initial focus was on to develop operational excellence. And that took almost 2 years, frankly speaking. It's an ongoing process. It's never going to stop. But it takes at least a good 2 years of your own personal intervention, your own personal involvement in business to keep your team cohesively together. Because if you're not able to build a great team to start with, no matter how much marketing you do through digital media, through print media, through multiplexes, or no matter what kind of incentive schemes you bring in, if you do not have a strong operational backbone to your business, it's bound to collapse beyond a point of time. And that happens with many restaurants. So statistics say that possibly 70% food and beverage outlets collapse in the span of 3 to 4 times. And the major reason why it happens is because the promoters or the owners primarily are not from the F&B background. They think it's a media to earn, a quick bucks with money. It's very cash rich. Yes, it is cash rich. But unless the involvement of the promoters, the owners are 100% from day one, it's very difficult to run this kind of trade banking on others, banking on probably managers if you pay them money. But if you yourself don't have an exposure in this kind of business, it might not be a sound idea. It might not be a great idea. And eventually there'll be so much of leakages which you will not be aware of. So after probably a 2 years sound investment in terms of time, obviously money, the second thing was to look into measures of promoting it. So that's where I started attending the various travel agents meets. Now, I remember the very first BTM, which is called the Bengal Travel Mart, did start in Siliguri in the year 2016, exactly a year after I opened my outlet. So I did attend that, built up some contacts from there. I kept on attending all the subsequent BTMs, TTF, the various travel forums, okay, across the country, in Delhi, in Bombay. So those marketing initiatives were started, and obviously a major thrust was given in knowing the drivers, knowing the chauffeurs, because they are the people who possibly brings in your customers. And if you do not know your drivers, do not know the chauffeurs who run with your, who are on constant move with your customers, with your guests, it will be virtually impossible to succeed in any location which are largely driven by tourists. So again, we took a major initiative in expanding our reach, to outreach to various shoppers, and because our study for the last 3 years indicates that no less than 5,000 to 10,000 drivers can apply on this sector. So it was very important for us to do that one-on-one contact. Today, I can proudly tell you that we have a reach of something around 4,000 to 5,000 drivers in this location. I personally know the name, know the families, know the houses of no less than 500 drivers, right? So that kind of marketing drive had to be taken, right? And that's what gives the confidence. And you constantly come to know from them that what are the good locations where you should possibly think of venturing out. So most of the suggestions come from them, and that's what one of the drivers told me, that why don't you find a location which is close to Darjeeling, because that's another area where we take lots of tourists. So probably a year and a half after my first outlet, we one fine day, me and my wife went to Darjeeling, and again I was very fortunate that on the very first day that we went to Darjeeling, we just grabbed a local car, a local driver, and told him that take us around the city and show us some places. And the very first place that he showed us is something which we liked a lot. That was Batasya Loop. And again, Batasya Loop is a location which is possibly 5 kilometers ahead of Darjeeling and 2 kilometers after Ghum. So it's something which is in between Ghum and Darjeeling. And it itself is a major tourist attraction, because the time when we went over there was something around I think December 2016, and we saw even in winters a reasonably good amount of tourists who were present. So that gave us a kind of a confidence, and why not? Because one of the major problems which you face in Darjeeling town is parking. Where are you going to park your vehicle, and how are you going to bring your tourists, your guests to your restaurant? So that's where Batasya Loop became a very good choice for us, because it was exactly on the highway, and we didn't really have to do much of brainstorming in terms of parking, now, because parking plays a very important role for our kind of business. So the second outlet came up, but then everything in business comes with lots of unforeseen setbacks, unforeseen challenges. If you all remember, 2017 was the year when Darjeeling went on a 3-month flight. My restaurant was almost going to open. We are almost 90% complete by February 2017, but unfortunately, this strike in Darjeeling did start something around March 2017, and it took almost 3 months to get it over. And this entire thing again put the whole process of opening my outlet by, delayed by almost a year. So what we could have done by 2017, early Feb, happened around August 2017, or 18 rather. Correct, 18 rather. So it took the whole process of opening the outlet almost 1 year delay. So, but nonetheless, from the day we opened up, by the grace of God and by the grace of well wishers, it did took off quite sound. So there are a whole bunch of factors, and probably one hour time is not sufficient for me to take you through. Very quick things to tell you all. If anybody over here harbors a kind of ambition or a kind of a vision to get into this kind of business, my advice to you would certainly be that please do not hurry. Please do not be impatient. Please do not pump in money just because your father or somebody is willing to invest in you without getting at least basic exposure in the industry. Because food and beverage, please understand, it's a very dicey, a very tricky field. There are multiple aspects to it. Because your inventory is so high. Just think about it. When you talk about a menu of 300 odd items, you possibly carry an inventory of 3,000 plus things. Right from a humble green chili and ending with probably an exotic spice or herb. So there are multiple aspects to it. And it will be virtually impossible for you to know this, to get an exposure of this, unless you have personal experience working with some good restaurant or hotel brands, right? I think now that I have done my bit of talking, and it's getting more of a monologue, I would want to hear a few things from you. You people, please ask me. There's something which I can educate you on.
Abhishek, I will like to ask you a question on behalf of the students. That is, you did talk about your becoming a hospitality entrepreneur, but I'm sure there are certain things which are common, like say, for example, you talked about a lot of homework before you actually started your venture. I guess whatever is the industry, whatever business you start with, there will always be a need for homework. Then there will always be a need for identifying your market. There will always be a need for standardizing your product, standardize your place, you're selecting your location, and then the homework, as you said. And these are very common for all sorts of so that I'm sure our students got insight into that. One area I'd like you to just say a few words on is, you see, there can be one type of business where you don't need any capital, not much of capital investment. Like yesterday, we heard from a lady, she started by recycling products, where you don't need a capital investment. Whereas your line of business, I'm sure it needed quite a lot of capital investment. So if our students want to go for a startup, any form of entrepreneur, and if they do need capital investment, can you name a few agencies to which they can approach for this purpose? Is Mr. Avishek Datta there?
No, sir, he is there, sir.
But then I asked him this question. He's not responding.
No, maybe he muted himself.
Might be some technical issues, might be some internet and all.
Shakur, can you find out? Or Shakur is probably not there. Shandipan, can you find out?
I think, sir, he has got call or something because he muted himself for some reason.
Yeah, but can you call him on his call line and find out?
Okay. Okay, sir.
Possibly he muted himself by mistake.
Okay, sir.
By the time, if the students have any questions, I will like to try and answer.
Yeah, you can, students, you can ask questions to sir, any kind of questions, not only regarding to the hospitality industry, anything
On
regarding the
anything,
entrepreneurship.
like whatever you heard today, if you need any particular clarification or further queries are there, you can ask, because I have also been listening to the talk.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Amy.
So I have a question, sir, regarding to this session only. Like, sir, if we want to start up a restaurant or something in a small town, then what would be the first thing to keep on mind?
Okay. Okay. Thank you. You can mute yourself now. You see, Amy, you can mute yourself now. I will address your query. You see, Mr. Datta very clearly stated that what he did was he first found out what was not there. Even whether it's a big city or a small town, it doesn't matter much. What is there, something that you believe would sell in your small town, but is not there. Like he found out that that typical dhaba food was not being served anywhere in a very hygienic modern way. So it was not, that product was not there. So if you identify the product, what is not there, and there is a possible demand, then you go ahead with it in terms of your homework. Do your own small survey, calculate how much investment would go into it, then calculate what is going to be your average sales, how much, and then what would be the break even point, how you are going to sustain. These calculations should come. What sort of investment goes into it, maybe phase wise, that the first bit of investment would be this, and if I can make it stand on its own feet, if I go near break even, I'll make the second investment in terms of expanding the area, whatever. But first, it should start from somewhere, by identifying the product and the and the client and the market, whether it's not it's there. All right, Amy. Any
Okay, thank
any
you.
You are most welcome. You are most welcome. Uh, any other question?
Yes, students, you can ask, sir is back out, sir is out here only. So you can ask your queries and all, anything regarding the, entrepreneurship journey and how hard it is, what are the difficulties and all. Sir is there, you can get a brief.
Abhishek, I had asked you a question while you were away. That is, yesterday a lady spoke.
Yeah, your microphone is muted. Your microphone is muted, Mr. Avishek.
Is it fine now?
I
Yeah, is it
think he
fine now?
Yes,
is
Can you
yes.
hear
having
me?
some.
Yeah,
Yes,
great.
yes.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes. Yes. Ah. So the point is that while you were away for a few minutes,
So,
I was actually asking you a question,
right.
but later I realized that you had not heard it.
Yeah, the audio went off.
So,
No, no, it's fine now. Yeah.
so the question was that yesterday we heard from a very successful lady entrepreneur. She delivered a talk, but her products were, she deals in recycled products. So she
Great.
started with very little, almost nil capital investment.
Right.
But whereas your line of business, it does need capital investment. Or
Absolutely.
if somebody wants to open a garment shop, say,
Great.
there are products which need a certain amount of capital investment, maybe in phases, in terms of
Right.
area expansion, etc.
Correct.
But then which agencies or we all know about banks, but is there any other agency which they can approach where they can get help?
So essentially, so what I can again relate to things which are my personal experience, okay?
Yes, yes.
And when I did start my first outlet 5 years back, uh, the overall investment which went on this first outlet was almost around 42 lakhs. Okay, now it's always good to, for me, what was good was that I had certain savings per se my 16 years of job. That was one factor which I did to my own coffers. And definitely there were certain close family relations like my own brother, my own in-laws to reach out to, okay, in terms of funding. So ideally, if you are looking to open up, because my understanding goes that for any kind of startup in F&B outlet, unless there's something which is happening absolutely very different, usually banks or usually financial institutions are not very forthcoming in terms of funding. So usually it happens through your own close contacts of your friends, acquaintances, family, your personal savings. Okay, but I mean the world has changed in 5 years, so I really don't know what's happening now. But for all my three outlets which I've opened up, the first needed investment for which I had to look up to my friends, family, and my personal savings. Okay, but the next two happened from the course of business itself. The next, the amount of profits we generated was good enough to
Okay.
start the second venture, the third venture.
I'll ask a very personal question.
Please.
Whatever loan you took from your friends and family,
Right.
have you been in 5 years' time? Have you been able to repay them?
Within 1.5 years, sir. In
Oh,
18 months.
fantastic.
Paid without interest.
Okay, okay. I believe the students can now continue to ask questions.
Great.
Yes, students, you can ask anything regarding the entrepreneurship journey and regarding the hard work and homework and all, anything, whatever you have, students, just
Yeah, whatever comes to your mind, please feel free to ask.
Okay, then I'll ask one more question again on behalf
Please.
of the students.
Right.
Is it absolutely necessary to work in some industry? For example, they are doing BBA, Bachelor in Business Administration. So they learn a lot about how to run a business during their course of study, which
Okay.
is a normal BCom or a BSc or some other normal curriculum they would not deal in. But these people get a fair lot of expertise in terms of finance, in terms of marketing, in terms of HR, in terms of economics, mathematics, statistics, etc. So they are already quite equipped. I'll compare the students of BBA to students of many other programs, including hospitality. I think the BBA students are a little ahead of others in terms of understanding a business and ability to run a business. So there, is it absolutely necessary to work in a because a student at this point of time might not be very sure what sort of business he or she wants to be in. So
Right.
they go out to the market, they join some company, they work in either HR or finance or whatever. But when they want to go for a startup, it could be completely entirely different. Like, for example, which I said earlier, a garment shop. They might
Right.
find that there is a particular small town where there is no modern garments are sold, and he can easily source it from somewhere. Then the townspeople, they don't have to travel to get access to such clothes. He doesn't have to work in a garment factory or something like that to understand that business. Maybe he already has the understanding. So
Very true.
can't they not go straight away for business before working for another company?
No, sir,
Or
absolutely. And
is there still some advantage
I
of
tell you what,
working
sir.
in a company? Yeah, sure.
Right. I got a question, sir. Absolutely anybody at any point of time. I mean, it's their money, so they can do whatever they want to do with that at any point of time, any given day. Okay. Uh, as I said to you previously, also I can only speak of things which are from my own experience. Okay, I can't vouch by others, vouch for others. So nonetheless, if somebody wants to do it without working anywhere, is absolutely fine to go ahead. So possibly his journey will be quite different from mine. His clientele will be different from mine. The location is different from mine. He possibly will have certain sets of ideas. I will never ever discourage, as a matter of fact, anybody who wants to be in business. Anybody who wants to get into business, it's a great thing to do. It's a great thing to do. Yes, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of personal commitment, a lot of personal time, the whole bunch of things which happens to your personal life when you get into business, at least for the initial 2, 3, 4 years. But yeah, if it succeeds, and God bless everyone succeed in what they do, it definitely is. It's a very exhilarating experience. Okay, so if somebody wants to venture it from the day one after passing from his college, he's most welcome at his own expense. What possibly I had an exposure 20 years back or 15 years back will not be quite relevant to what the youngsters now this would want to do. I really don't know how the world has changed in 15 years. Okay, especially from education per se. But all I can vouch, all I can say or can advise is that there are quite a few factors about restaurant trade. You come to see a very close quarter, earning your own salary from somebody else, investment, and what's better than that? Now, when you work with a brand like KFC or a McDonald's, you actually see a live restaurant. You actually come to know certain processes, certain standards. Like I'll give you a basic fundamental. Now, essentially, there are 6 factors which are very, very crucial for a restaurant business or any business, as a matter of fact. What we used to call champs in KFC. We say that if you have cleanliness, if you have hospitality, if you have accuracy, if you have maintenance, if you have product quality, and if you have speed of service. So these 6 elements, if they are executed with the right spirit, forms the backbone of a great operations. And this can be relevant to any business. Why F&B? It can be for retail, for a garment business, for anything. As a matter of fact, if you can deliver a clean environment, if your employees are hospitable, if you have accuracy, that means if somebody is actually asking you a Louis Philippe shirt 38, so you're giving him a 38 size Louis Philippe shirt. So if you've got accuracy, if your store is well maintained, if the furnitures, the fixtures don't have crack, your ceiling doesn't have a crack, it's a well maintained store. If your product quality is absolutely great, that means when you are selling a Louis Philippe shirt, you're selling a Louis Philippe shirt, it's not a fake. If your product quality is really great, and if you have speed of service, that means your customer asks for a size 39 and you have it there, then and there, and you can deliver it him then and there. So you are actually executing champs. So it's relevant for any kind of industry, be it F&B, be it retail, anywhere. So yes, if somebody wants to venture business immediately after college, most welcome. That's a great thing.
Okay, one last question from my side, as no questions have come much from the students. Yep. Suppose somebody from among the students present now wants to open up something in hospitality. Like one of the students, Amy, did ask this question when you were away. I was answering her that she wants to open up something, a restaurant in a small town. So how she should go about it. So I answered that. My point is that if any student wants to gain some hands-on experience before, like Amy's going for the business, will you allow them to gain some experience in your outlet?
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy.
I'm so sorry. It's a personal question.
Any given time.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. Thank you. Abrar, you can.
Thank you so much.
Abrar, you can close the session.
Hello. Sir, I want to add one thing for all existing BBA student. This is Sandeepan, sir. I just want to add one more thing, sir. One passed out student from BBA, a girl who has opened up a restaurant in Salwadi.
Great.
It is a small restaurant, but she has opened it from BBA.
Wonderful.
I hope, sir, you remember this Salini Agrawal.
Yes, I absolutely remember. She is from Nepal, no, originally.
Yes. No, from her batch only, Vagya.
Acha, from her batch. Okay. I remember Shalini very well.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Once I come to Siliguri, I'll go and visit that also.
Definitely, sir. Okay, sir.
Abrar, you can take over for closing the session.
Abrar? Okay, I think Mr. Abrar is having some internet connectivity issues, so he is not there. Okay, we thank Mr. Datta on behalf of IIAS as well as from our student. It is really a enlightening session for ourselves and for our student as well. We thank you, sir.
But my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Abhishek,
Thanks for
thank you very much.
Pleasure, sir. We'll see you in Siliguri very soon.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Thank you.